I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I am just so disappointed. Hi, I'm Beth. If you did not know, I run a teeny tiny little Etsy shop called Bumblebee, previously Bubblegum Beth Crafts, which is dead. We scrapped that like maybe a week, 2 weeks ago. And we rebranded to Bumblebee purely because it's shorter and it's cuter, and yeah, I'm gonna, like, after I film this, make a whole Instagram reel talking about it. So, you know, if you want more info, this is my social media at woo. So today we're going to be talking about pop-up shops, which I have now participated in 2 pop-up shops. One in like a temporary shop and one in a more permanent shop. And my brand is about a year and a half, 1.5 years? Yeah, like a year and a half old. So still super new. I'm learning as I go. And I thought maybe I should have done some more research, but I am providing what I have learnt to you. So similar to a few videos ago where I was teaching you kind of my top 10 guide thingy, this is some advice I have learned from doing pop-up shops myself and things you should look out for. I have 10 tips again, and yeah, if you're a baby brand and you are just joining, you'll first have a pop-up, or if you've got a bigger brand and you are joining a shop, hopefully these little tips and tricks will help you. Obviously it might not apply to you, but for me this is what I have found to have worked. So yeah, first tip when looking into pop-up shops and booking your first stand, stall, display is research. So every shop will probably have a different theme or something they want to cater towards, whether it be like Christmas or Halloween. I took part in a festival fashion range and everything was all based around sustainability and looking fabulous at festivals and the whole like big UK rave scene. So where I live in Bristol, the drum and bass culture is huge, which means all the extravagant cool rave outfits are like the thing. So that was my key focus. I have made videos about my process and stuff like that before. You can check those out. I'll leave them somewhere up here. But really look into where the shop is, what the demographics like. If you're catering more towards a shop, which I have also done, maybe try to have a little look at the age demographic, see how old people are around there, see if there's any local schools nearby. Just kind of try to base out what you think would work. Not necessarily like your most unique items, however, if you think it would work in that context, obviously pop them in, but just try to like stick to what you think would do well there as like a base level for what to stock. My second tip kind of takes off from that. Make sure to cater to all of their demographics, not necessarily all of them obviously, but with any shop they're going to have a range of different shoppers, and I feel like if you can focus on one niche or be able to cater to that one specific group, you can really milk it for all it's worth. It's like, for example, if you have a cute little character who looks like a pigeon with a McDonald's hat on and you work near a McDonald's, that could be great for the McDonald's workers, and then the McDonald's workers might be like, oh look, customers, ha 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 ha, and then customers might find them, and then young people find them, and then it become a meme, and then it could become like a local town meme. You know, the possibilities are endless. But truly, if you just look and see what it's about, you can basically work backwards. So like I said, if you find your niche and then you're like, okay, so from this I could do this. So for me, I know that if my shop is in an area with lots of school kids, I'm going to want to stock cuter accessories such as headbands and hair clips, because kids are more likely to pick those up, try them on, you know, put them on, ask for them. And you can also kind of gauge how much things should be, because while you don't want to undersell yourself, and the majority of the time the shops do charge quite a bit to have your stuff stocked in it, you're going to want to gauge how much you think the markup should be versus what you think people can afford based on what your product is. My third tip I've written here is it depends on the size of your brand. So for me, going into it, I had barely scraped 100 followers on Instagram. I'm talking about when I did my big shop display. I had barely 100 followers on Instagram. I was tiny. I think I had maybe 70-80 sales on Etsy. I still have relatively similar numbers. They are higher, more towards the 150-200 mark now, but still very minute brand compared to people who are around me. Like, there was an amazing company called 2.5 who has something stupid like 1,000 sales almost on Etsy, and it's like, whoa, okay, you guys are like titans, you know what you're doing. And like, you look on Instagram and you're surrounded by people with like 3k 14k followers, and I'm here like, hey, I'm a baby. And it can be really intimidating. Like, these people know what they're doing and I'm just here like, hi. But honestly, I feel like focusing on building your brand a little bit more before you do these things will help, because not only can your followers interact and be like, wow, you're selling at this shop, I'm gonna go visit, and bring people in that way, you can also make connections with other brands who are selling there, who are of a similar size, talk to them about it, and feel like, I felt so insecure. I was like a very unknown brand. I think I was the brand now with the least amount of followers, and yeah. 4. This is something I kind of did after, because I'll be honest, my collection that I did at a big pop-up shop didn't do great. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it didn't do great. The whole shop didn't do great, and I know this because I asked sellers and vendors around me how it went, and I asked people who had previously vended like what to expect, how was it for them, did they enjoy it, did they get much response, did they get many followers, did they get many sales, what was the reception like. And honestly, doing this, it might feel a bit cheeky being like, hi, so how many sales did you get? You don't have to directly ask. You can ask like, hey, did you break even? How do you feel it went? Did you guys have like a good week, a good weekend? Like, what's your best seller? You know, just basic things like that. You don't have to directly ask them how much they made, because that's always a little bit much. But I found, for me, I was getting messages from brands who were like similar items, messaging going, hey, how are you doing? Like, panicking over here, how's it going for you? And honestly, it's very reassuring if you're doing amazing and, you know, everyone's at the same stand. It's like, yes, let's go, gang. Or alternatively, if it's not going so well, you could all be like, okay, so it's not just us, it is what's going on in the world right now. It also helps as well if you know the people around you, because you can do like free promo. So for me, I really got to know the people who were like above me, well, not above me, who are like to left and right of me, who are in front of me. So when I would make my content on Instagram and TikTok, you could see what was similarly around and you could tag them. And then I know on TikTok, it shows you, if you follow someone, it will show you videos with those tags in of that person, if that makes sense, you know? So one thing I know I'm really working on now is being true to my pricing and pricing things appropriately. I like, my prices are fairly high. I know that for a fact, but I don't make any money from Etsy. Like, I make, for every sale I make on Etsy, I get 50% roughly, and that is down to their fees, shipping fees, and not including how much it costs for me to manufacture it, how much it costs to actually buy the stock. So, you know, not great. Pop-up shops can be the same. Obviously they're going to have fees. They might have rental space fees, which are normally around maybe like 10 to 15% of what you'd expect to bring in, or they might have a set price. So I know for me, when I did that festival shop, it was around the 150-200 mark, which in itself is a lot, but you kind of hope to bring back that revenue and make profit from it. Honestly, sitting down and working out how much you should be pricing things and how much things actually cost to manufacture, including like if you look at how much the minimum rate pay is in your city, in your town, wherever you are. I don't know why I'm saying that, it's like it varies between countries, but kind of working through that and being like, okay, so this takes me 2 hours, so realistically if I was just charging myself to make this for 2 hours, it would cost this much. And then on top of that, I had to buy this material and that material and this and that and that, and then build it up like that. It will increase your price, but ultimately it helps. Even if something takes like 15 minutes, you can work it out how long that 15 minutes would be, how long you actually spent working on like a bulk of products, and kind of adding it up from there. And it feels, for me, very guilty that I'm at a point where I have to up my prices even more. But it's like, no matter what, people are still going to buy things. It just depends on who. Your prices aren't going to cater to every single demographic, much like what you create isn't going to be for everybody. And you've just got to do what you've got to do. There are always going to be people who are going to try and undercut you, which sucks because we obviously, as small creators, I feel it's quite obvious that the majority of us try to compete with fast fashion brands like Primark and Shein, where everything is like 20p, when realistically fabric alone should cost like £8 to make one garment. And it's really just kind of about making sure you as a person are able to sustain yourself. Pop-up shops, definitely work out if you need to buy more stock like I did. I spent so much money on custom fabric, which I love. I have not used it since because I'm a little bit intimidated by it because it was so fucking expensive, but we move. But make sure you price appropriately and factor in any extra hidden costs. Again, kind of adding into this, know your worth. As a small business, you are expected to price appropriately. Like, the whole economic stance of small businesses, like I previously mentioned, is difficult. But you've got to know your worth, and if anybody ever says anything like, oh, it's too expensive. Like, I did a convention 2 weeks ago, and when a girl asked how much some earrings were and I told her £10, the dad rolled his eyes and was like, really? Like, that's a lot. Like, okay, sir, so you want to know about my prices? Cool. And in the back of my head I was thinking, yes, it is expensive, however I had to pay a set amount of money to get here with petrol, how much my table hire was, how much everything you see on the table is, because I had to buy equipment like cages to display the items, how much time my item took to make, how many different things attached to it. So in my case it was two per earring, it was 2 resin charms with two like lines of like chain, and then I believe it was like 4 links and then a 2 link and then the actual earring itself. So it adds up, and it may not seem like a lot, but it does. It really fucking does add up. And obviously with the cost of living rising here in the UK, because you know the Tory parties like to fuck us over, it's a lot. But honestly, sticking by it and knowing your worth and being confident in your pricing, you've got to do it. Hashtag not sponsored. This book, She Is the Business by Bethany Sharp. Oh my god, we've got similar names, cute. Well, my name's Beth. But yeah, this really helped me work out my pricing, and especially for headbands, which are like my biggest thing that sell and I have the biggest range of. It made me realise how much I'm underpaying myself, and how I can think of ways to price things a bit higher so that it's respectable to me and the buyer. So I recommend that book. I'll leave a link down below. Additionally with this, be realistic with your expectations. For me, I am not an optimist at all. I like to think worst case scenario, so if it happens I'll expect it, and if I do better that's great. Like, I do it with tattoos. I'm always like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, my leg's gonna get cut off, oh my god, I'm going to faint from the pain. And then when I get it done, I'm like, it's like, yeah, it's like, if this was in meme format, it would be like the cat shouting at the other cat, you know, where it's like, ah, you're gonna do shit, versus reality, this is fine. A baseline of a minimum you'd like to bring back, again including all of the costs you've built up to build stock and pop things in your shop for everything. This doesn't really apply if you've already got pre-made stock that you're going to take, but ultimately this is pop-up advice as a whole versus what you would like to bring home after all of it, and kind of finding like a little middle ground where you're like, okay, this is my expectation. If I do under this, that's okay. It's a loss, but that's okay. Or if I do higher, that's incredible. Like, go to me. Be very wary of fees. So again, random fees gonna pop up no matter what you do. Get it? Pop up. So there's lots of different ways you can kind of avoid this. Like, I know if for your pop-up you are doing fair, for example, where you create products and then they wholesale it for you in a different shop, you can set a set amount for how many things people order, or vice versa. You could contact the shop and be like, hello, I don't know how many things you want, what would you recommend, and base it off of that. But one thing I quickly realised when I was doing the shop pop-up was the fees will keep coming, and essentially the way most of these work is you pay a set amount per week or per month, and then depending on how many items you sell, they decrease those fees for the following month, as opposed to giving you money and then you paying for your shelf fee at a different time, which in my brain doesn't work. I like to see physically the money I get before it gets sent out again. I don't know, I'm aware for other people this works, but for me, I don't. My brain doesn't function that way. I like to see how much I've made and then sort the bills out myself, and vice versa, which is really irritating when the shops themselves don't really promote your items, or are very limited in the promotion they do, or aren't very nice, for example. There's a multitude of things that could go wrong within this. So you've just got to kind of work your way around it and be very aware of the fees and the costs that come along with it, because there's always going to be little things. You might need more business cards, you might rebrand, something might break, you might want a new picture of yourself wearing your products. Like, penultimate tip is make sure your stockist is reputable. If it's a new shop, I would recommend maybe waiting a few months to a year, which I know when you're a small business, a year sounds like a fucking long time and you wish it wouldn't, but wait a little bit just to see what other people are doing. You know, use them as lab rats. They can go and test out the waters for you, and then, like I previously mentioned, get in contact and be like, hey, how was this shop for you? What did you find work? What did you find didn't work? Because I've learned the hard way that if you apply to some shops, I've had this a few times, and they're a smaller brand, they're not going to know what to expect, and that makes you feel uneasy because you don't know what to expect. And if it goes wrong, it's all just kind of like, well, it's like the Ralph meme where it's like, ha, I'm in danger. It's a bit like that. It just doesn't work. Alternatively, being with a smaller shop can be great because it's a more condensed environment and there's less things. And if it's in like a smaller town, for example, you're more likely to find a smaller selection of little bits and bobs, which makes everything you do find seem a little bit nicer. Or if you're in a big city, it's like that cute little place over there that sells adorable little things. But ultimately, research, try and do a little bit of a web search, see if they've got any news articles written about the shop, seeing what their future plans are, have a look at their Instagram, their social media, because I think ultimately you could get scammed very easily this way. I haven't personally, but I could see how people would like pay for a table and then hear nothing from the brand and then find out 2 months later that it's not even happening and you've just lost a whole bunch of money. Make sure the stockist is established, and if they send over any contracts, you read them thoroughly and get to know and familiarize yourself with the kind of things that could happen while you are stocking there. Again, this is also my final tip. Read your contracts thoroughly. You are within your rights to reject the contracts or ask questions about subsections and find out little bits and bobs, but ultimately you should know your rights as a consumer. You are essentially a consumer paying for a service, and that service is your products get put in their shop, which they take care of, and if anything goes wrong, they are liable. Or vice versa, you are liable if anything goes wrong on your end. Like, that's why you get public liability insurance. But I found sometimes if things break that are not your fault, I know I got blamed for something very similar and I basically lost my fucking mind. I was like, oh, okay, so I gave you my items and you broke them, yet you're blaming me. Not really sure how that works, but cool. Okay, cool. Like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I am just so disappointed. And it's at that point you really kind of think like, wow, okay, is this my fault? Is this your fault? Are you gonna pay for it or am I gonna have to pay for it myself? Like, really read through your contracts and make sure you have all the insurance to back yourself up and you know what the protocol is and what to expect, because again, sometimes they will have weird ass conditions. Again, I've read through some odd contracts which have been like, you need to work in the shop for 5 to 8 days a month, and it's like, so what you're saying is you want free labour? Miss Thing? No. But yeah, just read your fucking contracts. That was a nice bit of therapy, wasn't it? Oh, I feel like I think some stuff's been lifted off my shoulders. Oof, that was good, bro. Speaking of small businesses, shout out to Pink Bird Originals. Yes, Pink Bird Originals with a super cute hoodie. It's, well, jumper. It's got Appa on and he's flying around having a real good time. I love it. I think I've worn it pretty much every day since I've got it, like a month ago. But yeah, so for now, those are my tips and tricks. Let me know in the comments below if you have anything else you'd like me to talk about, small business wise, or any things you've learned along the way, whether it be positive or negative, what your experience has been like. Overall, my experience hasn't been great, but that's mainly been down to me and not knowing things and my inexperience. So, you know, you live and you learn. I, again, am still a baby brand. Like, I am learning. And that's okay. Like, hold your hands up, like, cool, I'm still learning. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.